I'll tell them a story first, and you think then something else.
It's a nice father.
I'm going to stand up when I tell you this. So I want the girls to give it.
He's talking to the girls tonight.
Father like son.
My most memorable experience with the Rebbe, Mrs. Berenson. Mrs. Berenson, yes, you heard this story from me 40 years ago, if you were at the luncheon with your husband. And my immediate family knows the story, but I'll tell you the story. I was living in Sydney. And I remember at the time I had my sons, I had two daughters and two sons at the time. And I was a half a day in business with my father-in-law, who was a diamond merchant, a jeweler. And the other half a day I used to occupy myself with teaching and so forth. There was a city called Adelaide.
It still exists.
Still exists. For me, it's something, a city from the past. I wasn't an official rabbi at that time, although I did officiate as a rabbi in a place called the Mizrahi Synagogue in Sydney. Apparently they had a minister there, I don't know if he was a rabbi or not, and the community had a row with him, and either they gave him the sack or he left. I don't know exactly what happened, but they were left without a minister, without a rabbi. And apparently Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur was coming, and normal for a congregation to think that you need a rabbi during the high holidays. And apparently they wrote to Rabbi Porish, may God rest his soul, he's now passed on, and they wrote to him that they need a minister for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Could he please recommend someone? Well, this was 3 weeks before Rosh Hashanah, and there wasn't very much time, and every rabbi had already been engaged and so forth. And he wrote to them, it's very hard, but there is a Rabbi Gutnick in Sydney, Rabbi Chaim Gutnick. If you get him, they say you'll have a nice holiday. So they wrote me a letter. I think they offered me £300, apart from the salary, wages, from the fare money and so forth. I should come. I talked it over with my wife, as I said, I had children at that time, and I decided against it. And I answered them straight away, no, I didn't want to leave my wife and family yontif and go by myself. So Rabbi Porish wrote to them, he said, listen, the only one way to get him, there's a rabbi in New York called the Lubavitcher Rebbe. You write to him that you need him, and he will instruct him, and once he tells him there's no. They did that, and a week before Rosh Hashanah, I get a letter. The Rebbe says, I was shocked to hear that the community turned to you to help them out on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, and you refused them. What sort of a business is that? And in the question that he asked, the assumption was that I'm going to go. And he wrote at the end, he says, when you get there, will you interest yourself, please, in the Egyptian Jews that are there? Find out what's doing with the Egyptian Jews. I didn't know what kind of Jews there were in Adelaide. And if the Rebbe wrote, I took 2 cases with me. In one case, I didn't wear a hat and a suit at that time, I didn't have a beard, and I walked around like any other Australian young fella did. So what I did, I went out and bought myself a black hat and a black suit. I had to look the part a little bit. I couldn't grow a beard that quickly. And my wife packed me up 2 cases. In one case was chicken, cooked chicken, matzah and so on, so that I should have kosher food. And in the other case were my clothes, and I landed at the airport. And Mr. Gus Hines is not alive today, Mr. Gus Hines and Mr. Solomon. And you have a family Krasenstein here. A relative of theirs was on the board. They came to see me, meet me at the airport. As soon as the president, who was Mr. Gus Hines, saw me, I saw the disappointment in his face. I didn't look like a rabbi at all. I looked like some young boy coming in. Anyway, they took me to a motel, and we had a bit of a discussion, we had a bit of an argument, because he started dictating me what I should do, what I shouldn't do, what I should say, what I shouldn't. I said, listen, you called a rabbi. A rabbi's supposed to tell you what to do, not you tell him what to do. But there was one thing I agreed. They wanted that at the end of the service, that when the service finishes and I'm sitting on the top there, something on a rabbi's chair, that I should go down after the service and stand by the door, so that all the congregation, when they leave the congregation, should be able to pass by and get my blessing for a happy new year. Okay, I said, right. This was on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, the day before. On the eve of Rosh Hashanah, I walked out of my hotel and walked to the synagogue to have a look and see what was doing there. I wanted to test my voice, how my voice was carrying, to see what the shul was like. And as I was wandering around there in the corridor, there was a girl working in the office. She was a secretary, a lady. And as I was walking around inside the shul and outside the shul, I suddenly noticed that an elderly woman walked into the synagogue, and she was leading a young girl, about 17, a plumpish girl, leading her by her hand into the synagogue, into the corridor, into the foyer. And she stopped to me and asked me, excuse me, sir, could you tell me please, where is the holiest place in the synagogue? For a minute there, I didn't know what it meant, the holiest place in the synagogue. Probably where the women sit. But then I thought to myself, probably where the curtain is set, where the Sifra Torah are. So I took her, and she led the girl, and I noticed that she led the girl, but the girl was blind. And she led the girl to the synagogue. I told her, you see where that red curtain is? That's the holiest part of the synagogue. And I saw her take the girl, lead her up to the curtain, and then walk out again. And I was standing fascinated. And I thought to myself, my God, what a community this is. They come privately to the synagogue before Rosh Hashanah to confess their sins before God and get forgiveness. And I saw the young girl fall on her knees, pick up the curtain, and start kissing it. I couldn't see what she was saying or anything like that, but it was a very tremendous sight. And as she was there, I thought to myself, I'll find out what this is. So I walked back and went into the office to the lady, and I asked her, listen, tell me, there's a blind girl there, kneeling in front of the Aron, where the Sifra Torah are, and praying. Can you tell, well, what is this? So she says, is she dark? I said, yes. She looks like from the east. So she said to me, oh, I know what it is. Don't worry about it, she says. There are some Egyptian Jews here. We don't get on very well with them. And she's probably one of them. They don't come to the synagogue, most of them. And probably she wanted to daven, say something before Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so I thought I'd go out there and wish the young girl a Happy New Year. But by the time I'd finished talking to the lady and I went out, the girl was gone and nobody was there.